Alright, what is up YouTube? HPJ here, and we have the OCG's Forbidden Limited list, which just dropped a couple of hours ago, and there has been some major changes to it, and apparently there's some justification attached to it, which, just for the record, there's a rare occasion any time, the TCG or OCG tries to clarify why they forbidden or limited specific things. So this is actually the first time in a while that we've gotten one. And it's funny enough, we only really get it from the OCG. So, and if you have not already tell, one of the biggest shocks is the return of Firewall Dragon. And I'll get into more detail about that as the video itself goes on. So, why don't we take a look at it? So, in addition to the video that dropped, that will be I'll try to put it in the link into the description box below. Here's the full setup for the OCGs Forbidden Limited list. So, Forbidden, they have Grinder Golem. For limited status, we have Red Reboot, Nair Servant, Dino Wrestler, Pancreatops, and Firewall Dragon with Errata. Then we have the semi-limited, where DeLorean, the Tiger King of the Ice Barrier, Wind-Up Magician, Junk Speeder, Magical Meltdown, and Curse Eldland. And then for the Unlimited, we have Fossil Dig, we have Tour Guide from the Underworld, and we have Dark Grapher. So, here's their justifications for what exactly they did with the OCG's list changes. Pretty much they forbidden Grinder Golem due to some of its interactions with the monsters in the game, primarily two big link monsters. Outer Edge Magician, or Acacia Magician, and Firewall Dragon. And being a Firewall, there were so many loops that were going on. That's part of the reason why they ended up banning Grinder Golem, probably being back Firewall due to that, and then just changing Firewall's ability. Which literally, if it wasn't changed, there'd literally be plays with no cost. Pancreatops, really easy high-level monster that can be special summoned to the field and a lot of interactions with other cards. Nair Servant was part of the key setup in deployment for Dogmateka, giving them really much their power in their setup in their utility. And Red Reboot, pretty much, according to them, was just a way to that was punishing too many decks that had a lot of traps in their utility with the free cost from the hand of what paying half your life points was life points has just become a real easy utility. So to help Eldritch and other heavy trap decks, they simply just said limit Red Reboot. Speaking of Eldritch, their curse Eldland got changed from 3 to 2, just so that it would slow down the deck of wherever it was at that moment. We also had Magical Meltdown, which synergized very well with Dogmateka, as we've seen both in the TCG and OCG. So at that point, Magical Meltdown had to be brought to 2 while they limited Nair Servant. Then for the other 2, in some cases, we have pretty much 2 very useful dark monsters. Tour Guide from the Underworld and Dark Grapher. Dark Grapher was pretty much just brought back to 3 because there really isn't much dark meta game setup that really survives the need for Dark Grapher to be where he was on the list. Similar to Tour Guide from the Underworld, where they simply just said there really isn't much of an issue of her being where she was on the list, so they put her back to 3. And then everything else they pretty much said is where it is because it's okay. Wow, that was bottlenecking the entire list itself, if you ask me. Looking at it, maybe I do agree with some of the choices from this end of the standard, where there's a lot of brokenness with a lot of combos and pieces, and I wouldn't be surprised if the TCG took this into consideration for March when our list drops. As just to look at it itself, Grinder Golem being forbidden kind of should be a thing for both ends. This is just one of those things where token makers have just become the be-all, end-all, and the starting key points to a lot of decks just for the high amount of freebies that are given. Grinder Golem, Dandelion, Vague, the Shadow, which is the Blackwing monster, Steam the Cloak, and just all those that associate with that. As it turns for the limited section, um, what is it? Pancreatops, easy float. Alright, sorry about that. Yeah, Pancreatops, who we were talking about. Easy float. It's kind of like Cyber Dragon. I think at that point, this is just the new age Cyber Dragon. It has to consider the fact that it can pop stuff by getting rid of itself. Nara Servant, the All Magical Meltdown combo. It's literally just because Dogmateka is really, really good. And in fear of it really breaking stuff, which that doesn't take long, yeah, that change has to be seasoned. I actually wouldn't be surprised if we get that in TCG. Um, then we move on to Firewall. So this is the change up for Firewall. This is a complete errata. Where he says you can only use this card's first and second effect once per turn each. So pretty much the limit is that you can only use the effects of Firewall once per turn each. In that way, it would prevent the massive amount of use for Firewall Dragon. Where, of course, Firewall Dragon has the effect that once Wallace is face up on the field, quick effect, you can target any number of monsters on the field or in the graveyard up to the number of monsters coming to this card, returning them to hand. And if a monster that this card points to destroy battle is sent to the graveyard, you can just summon one Cyberse monster from your hand. So that is also a big change too, because it was only able to summon other monsters, where now it's only regard to summoning Cyberse monsters. So that does give boost to Cyberse, however, it is a once per turn situation, so it is not as broken as it used to be. Which, remember, everyone said this. There had to be an errata where they were going to have to change it to it being once per turn. Or at least being once per turn each, so that way this card couldn't be so heavily spammed and so heavily abused, which they pretty much did. And in the clause, they also made this card exclusive to the Cyberse archetype. Which, by the way, there are some very easy to summon generic Cyberse monsters, so that doesn't hinder most extra decks at that point to use Cyberse monsters. It's just now relegating it to where it's not so abusable as it was before. So combos like what was it? Anything that you could use to pop off monsters to inflict damage to your opponent, i.e. any FTKs, were pretty much limited now to nothing. Like, they literally bounce to nothing because of how to do it. So that means stuff like all the cannon soldiers and all of them could potentially see freedom from the OCG's Forbidden Limited list. Instead, in the TCG, they just hit Firewall Dragon and said, we're having none of that shenanigans. Alright, moving on from there. Wind Up Magician? I thought Wind Up Magician was at 3 for the OCG. I guess not. But they wanted to change it, they did. So Wind Up Magician's back. DeLorean, that's probably just to boost up the sales for the Ice Barrier stuff. And seeing as how I hate to say it, guys, but the Ice Barrier thing is not. It's not going anywhere, guys. Sorry. It's not. You can look at it as much as you want to. But there has to be something like that puts them all together that really would just say this is how the Ice Barrier strategy works. Because right now the only two vices is either lag down or synchro spam. Junk Speeder, I don't even know what that card does. I know it's a synchro monster. There's probably some synchro spam with the junk stuff in Synchron, so that's probably why. Fossil Dig going to 3. That is simply just because Dinosaur itself is just really, really powerful. But sitting as that Pancreatops did get the hit, I think Pancreatops, if I'm not mistaken, is level 7. So the factor is that cards like Missile Cerosaurus, Soul Eating Oviraptor, Baby Pterodon, Baby Cerosaurus. Those are like your key dino pieces. So because of their low level, this being their Rhoda, that being limited or semi-limited or wherever it was on the OCG list, getting on free, is because they're hitting all the other pieces that would considerably make the deck stronger than it was. We already know Torghide and Grapher at this point coming back. was essential on both ends. Especially considering the fact that this is also to boost up all the stuff for PK Fire, which I know PK Fire doesn't use Dark Grapher, but they do use Turret Eye. Grapher, on the other hand, is just back because what really high level stuff can you use when I think it's Malicious. Malicious is the only dark monster I can really think of that heavily abused Dark Grapher unless you were using pure dark decks. But I think in the OCG they hit stuff like that. Like I think the beginning of the ends at 1 in the OCG. There's a lot of heavy hits here and there. But yeah, I mean it's a list. They gave their explanations for it. In terms with the TCG, I wouldn't be surprised if they did bring back Firewall with its errata. I wouldn't the Dogmateca invoke stuff. I can see that hit too. I wonder would they even hit invocation? Would invocation have to be hit in order for that to also flourish? Eldritch's hits too. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit not only the Golden Land, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hit a couple of other cards just to even that out. And as far as it goes with the TCG's next unlimited stuff, I don't know because the limited section in TCG is way bigger than what it is in OCG. And that's simply just due to where things are placed here and there in the game. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think of the OCG's Forbidden Limited list. Do you think you'll see some of the similar changes in regards to the TCG's Forbidden Limited list? Do you think Firewall is going to come back with the errata? Do you think it's time for Firewall to come back? And all those other things. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell next to the subscription button so you guys can be informed when I do upload more content. And of course, the social media links are in the description box below, so you guys can interact with me there through other social media outlets. And I will catch you guys next time. OCG signing out. Take care.